Hello, dear listeners. Today I am gathered with Michael, and we are here on a Sabbath, June 18th, 2022. And we are about to embark on a new session with the title of the session being Media Murder of Lee Harvey Oswald. Michael, welcome.
Thank you very much, Brett, and dear listeners. Yes, I'm really sorry to make that session because it's just an intermediate session that we getting along with the fact of Mr. Oswald, the strange nature of Mr. Oswald and all the things around that. And the second thing is that we need something for the next upcoming, I think, more interesting sessions than this one, maybe. So I apologize for your precious time, but this is the second part of the media murder of Lee Harvey Oswald. Coming to nitty-gritty, I'm very sorry that it does not incorporate any biblical verses because it's just a worldly thing about a murder or a so-called murder because you cannot prove anything because the government can forge and fake everything. So let's get it on. Why do I need to make the session? I want to make the session to make it perfectly clear that this Oswald case is some kind of a prime example for the things that governments and secret agencies, of course secret services, also are putting tricks on the people. So when you see that a club owner kills Oswald, then it must not necessarily mean Jack Ruby, although you see a picture with somebody firing a gun at close range or blank, what is it?
Yeah, right? Point blank range.
Point blank range, yeah, thank you. Yeah, but you see that it's all just television here, and we need to remind that it was 1963. So that was also a time when people were fascinated from the television, and nowadays they are even more fascinated from the television. So then I do not make any repetition here unless absolutely necessary. But the Warren Commission concluded that Mr. Oswald assassinated Kennedy, that Oswald has acted entirely alone. And of course, that also Mr. Ruby acted entirely alone about killing, so-called killing, that character of Mr. Lee Harvey Oswald. That it's all about secret societies. And one of the origins of secret societies are Mr. Francis Walsingham and Mr. John Dee. Both of them living in the 16th century, both of them being related to the English queen, Miss Elizabeth I, to protect her and to get information about possible assassinations and assassinators, or assassins. So that was Francis Walsingham, who then was introducing a net of spies, and Mr. John Dee was the alchemist. We talked about that character extensively, Brett, in the Science as the New Religious series. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was also alchemist, astrologian, etc., and he was then guiding Mr. Francis Walsingham. So that just wanted to point out that they got a long history, yeah, more history than the official history of the 1717 Jesuitical spoof of Freemasons. And I know that in occult circles, it's been disputed that the logo of 007 has been really originated by Mr. John Dee, his symbolic signature. So there is no proof for that, actually, I think. Bill Cooper said that they will blame Osama bin Laden. So he had some foreknowledge of the things coming. And of course, he said that weeks before the 9/11 attack started. And he said also, or many people say, that the CIA created the character Osama bin Laden under the disguise or the alias name of Tim. What was
Osmond?
it?
Or
Osmond, huh? Osmond was it?
I think so. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So they are creating characters with passports, and maybe they have also come up with different kinds of Osama bin Laden. It is very strange that even in the reign, so to speak, of Obama, Barack Obama, Osama was the worst killer, the worst enemy of the entire world. Osama Obama, I found that utterly strange. I think they play tricks on us.
Yeah, I agree. For sure, Michael. It is really, really strange. And why would Obama get a Nobel Prize for essentially just getting elected?
Yeah, for nothing but, huh? Mm-hmm. Nothing but trouble.
Yeah, in
No,
the
you
end, that's
get a
right.
Nobel Prize actually when you are in line with the agenda. That's very interesting because I just found out that the 2020 Nobels chemistry, it's very interesting. You see that all these people, these two women here, are also in line with the agenda. And you, of course, you have not to guess what they have come up with.
Oh, great.
Of course, that is the future. That is also the cause of the agenda, which is going on outside. Yeah, it's nothing to do with health or so. People are missing here. Yeah, but I got other things from Encyclopedia that also pest does not only mean animal but man. So these things are coming up. It will be like the old times of the Genesis, and I think that if you have studied the Bible, you know exactly what kind of chapter I refer to. So once again, there are maybe several Osama bin Ladens there, ones with a gray beard, with a white beard, with a long beard, with a black beard, I don't know. But sometimes it seems that the character is just changing, and you can also put on a wig or put on a false beard and all the things, and you can manipulate fake imagery or deep fakes on your own. Yeah, so it is. You see that what kind of a technology you have. You are equipped with your miserable home computer in 2020 to create deepfakes, to let some people appear as if they were actually real and speak strange things which they have never spoken. You see that in 2004, I think the CIA had more means at their disposal as you got in your home office in 2020, Brett.
Sure.
Yeah. So you can't rely on pictures and media, because we know that the former CIA director, William Casey, said, we'll know our disinformation program is complete when everything the American public believes is false. I know that is repetition from last time, but it has a big reason why I'm doing this. Because according to some researchers, also that is the case with that Lee Harvey Oswald. We are coming to this quite soon. Because if you know that this Lee Harvey Oswald worked for the CIA, and his assassin, Jack Ruby, or Jakob Rubenstein, is also been connected to the FBI, then you know that these two people here are not the regular people, but they also have ties to agencies. And that's a big problem, because these things were not happening by random. These things were happening not by usual civilians, but these were happening by Secret Service people, both in the case of the assassination of Kennedy as well as in the assassination of Oswald. So everything is staged. That is the logical outcome. If there is a CIA low-rank agent called Lee Harvey Oswald, the official accused killer of Kennedy, then he is not a civilian, Brett.
Mm-hmm.
If the FBI informant called Jack Ruby, who's also in ties with the mafia, running a nightclub, is the official killer of Oswald, then he's also not a civilian. So this is all just a big agenda. This is just a big play. This is a screenplay. Yeah, because there are counterintelligence programs, not against only the counterintelligence means against the intelligence of a foreign state or country or government, but also against the own people, against the intelligence of the regular people, against, more to say, against, so to speak, against common sense. It's counterintelligence. It's against your intelligence also. Yeah, so you will be fooled by them because they are coming up with fake characters, with fake stories, fake biographies. Yeah, that's all. You see that history is repeating. You see, this is John F. Kennedy in Washington, apparently, because of the obelisk. So John F. Kennedy has long been gone, but the obelisk is still in place. And the obelisk did survive any of the American presidents, Brett.
Oh, sure.
So that is an eternal Washington monument. So that is the monument that that American president also faced, and not only Ronald Reagan, but that American president as well. So they all face the fact that the sun religion, the old Babylon religion, is still in place and in power in Washington, D.C., district of the sun god, huh? There are no coincidences. You see, you will be fooled by television, media, newspapers, etc. big time. That's the big problem, meaning that everything that you see is more likely disinformation. You will never get the official information. You have to search for the facts. That's why I'm using etymology, symbols, numerology, and other means, and not regular articles, books, because also books can be written by ghostwriters, which happened in the case of John F. Kennedy, when he did not write his own books. And so what I want to point out is that the CIA and other agencies, of course, are trying to fool the people. And that's what actually is very interesting when it comes down to the power of media. In 1957, so 6 weeks, sorry, in 1957, so 6 years before the assassination of Kennedy, the Vatican has issued a decretal called an encyclical letter of His Holiness Pope Pius XII by Divine Providence Pope, you have to believe that if you are Catholic, called Miranda Prosus. It's about the benefits of any wireless telecommunication, which is television, of course, a vision from far away. Tele means far away, or vision means something that you see, that you receive from far away. A television, a radio, and of course smartphones nowadays, also these kind of things. And you could also include print media in that. And the Church, or the Vatican, said that there are reasons for the Church interest. The Church considers a matter of this kind to be particular. Her concerns, here is the duty for a much stronger reason than all others can claim of announcing a message to every man. So they say that they have the task to get the message straight out. The problem in Miranda Prosus is there is also censorship. Let me show you if I can see that, or if I can find it. Yeah. There is widespread opinion among men of our time who are unreasonably intolerant of the intervention of public authority that censorship is to be preferred, which comes directly from the industry itself. But though the persons professionally engaged in these arts can, in a praiseworthy manner, support the action of public officials and render ineffective the evils which can easily damage true morality, yet those rules and safeguards which issue from the former ought in no way to be opposed to the serious duty of the latter. I have to look it up, where that is. Yeah, moral is the key word. Okay, so let's, yeah. For we think that only can these new arts make their proper and natural contribution to the right fashioning of the minds of those who use them, if the Church, the state, and those engaged in these professions, pooling their resources in an orderly way, cooperate with each other to secure the desired end. If the opposite happens, in example, if these arts, without set laws of any moral safeguards, embark on a downward and uninhibited path, they will certainly restrict the people's true development and weaken their morals. So that means that the Church is in charge of the morals and the censorship of the transmission. This is coming from 1957, long before JFK was running for president. And that is only the half of the mess here. That means that the Vatican deals with propaganda, or in their concern, because they claim, of course, that they have to be taken care of because they are of divine providence. So as we all know that the CIA is an agency where papal knights are serving, of course they are serving the Vatican. Yeah, so they are serving the man or the institution that JFK did not obey to. And this organization of the CIA, yeah, if you would like to see the Vatican as the in the hierarchy above the CIA, this says that they have to censor the media in their interest, because they, of course, are of divine providence of the Pope. So you can see that also then the mentioning of William Casey in that regard means that disinformation means also the information that the Catholic Church is putting out that shall be spread by the CIA, and also they have to fight against, in their minds, the so-called fake news. Because they tell you what the truth is, and everything opposes that their so-called truth will be fake news in their side. I'm sorry that I'm not native English speaker. It's hard to explain. Yeah, but
that makes sense.
Yeah, they tell you what's right and what's wrong. Yeah, and who are you? Because you are just a layman, and this is coming directly from the one who has the divine office of the papacy. Entertainments for youth. Yeah, you know what entertainment means. To enter, to tame, and mentally. So to enter in your mind and to tame you mentally. Entertainment for youth. So they want to spoil the youth with their television and all the media. You only have to take apart that word in three separate words: entertain and mentally. And then you got it. If you take that with a grain of salt, you know that what they are telling you. We consider it superfluous in this place to repeat the warnings with regard to film and radio programs, which we have already given concerning the obligations binding in this matter on spectators, listeners, producers, and state officials. Yeah, warnings from the Catholic Church, from the infallible Pope. A warning. What does that mean? It does mean, Brad, that you have to obey. Otherwise, you will at least lose your job. So
yep.
they tell you what's right and what's wrong. And that's my point about the Sovereign Military Knight of Malta. I've talked several times about the hierarchy or about the pyramid of the Freemasons. Yeah, everybody knows that picture here. And usually people think that there is, the finish is here on the 33rd step. It's an honorary step. You can only achieve 32, and then you will get, maybe you, if you have made a contribution to a big public, for example, Mr. Zapruder, because everybody knows the Zapruder movie now, or Mr. Zapruder, because of his movie, they get then the honorary 33 degree. And on top of that must be the all-seeing eye. But I think that is wrong, because I think that the Sovereign Military Order of Malta is way higher than the highest rank in Freemason. So there is also a higher rank than the 33, because there are organizations who are ruling then the Freemasonry. When we know, we have learned about that the 33-degree Freemason Albert Pike was being controlled by Jean-Pierre de Smetz from a Jesuit, then you know that he is not, the 33 is not the highest rank you can ever get, because there are organizations on top. And one of them, in my humble opinion, is the Sovereign Military Knight of Malta. Because it is very interesting to know that the Sovereign Military Knight of Malta, this is a country without an own territory. Though it possesses no territory, the order is often considered a sovereign entity of international law, as it maintains diplomatic relations with many countries and is located where? In Rome. Mm-hmm. So, does the Freemasons, Brett, except from the United States of America, does the Freemasons have an own country?
No,
no,
they don't.
Yeah, there is no Freemason country of the Antarctica or something else.
Not that I know of.
Yeah, nothing that I know of too. So there are only two countries which have a observator status in the United Nations. These are the Vatican and SMOM, not the Freemasons. So the SMOM is way higher than the Freemasons. I have prepared some interesting table. I'm absolutely sorry that I messed it up, but it's not me I messed it up. It's actually the file is somewhere corrupted. I hope that I will get it on one page. Please, yeah, I hope that I can present it on one page. Oh, hello. Yeah. So now look at the connections about the CIA with the Vatican with the help of the SMOM. You know that the CIA leader of Allen Dulles had been fired by John F. Kennedy, but he was also a sovereign knight of Malta, as well as his relative Avery Cardinal Dulles. He was a priest from 1956 on, so during the reign of Kennedy. There was also a priest in the Sovereign Military Knight of Malta, as well as the CIA director, and they both are related. As well as a former SS General Reinhard Gehlen also set up the OSS successor CIA, and also the Israeli Mossad as the SS General, also Sovereign Knight of Malta. Lyndon B. Johnson, the Vice President under Kennedy, Sovereign Military Knight of Malta. So that even if they were not in this same party or not politicians, you see, they're all been under one wing of the Sovereign Military Knight of Malta, that Allen Dulles, who had been kicked off by Kennedy, as well as the Vice President Lyndon B. Johnson, as well as the special assistant and special diplomat for the Vatican from the United States, Henry Cabot Lodge, Knight of Malta, as well as Henry R. Luce, the one who has bought the Zapruder, infamous Zapruder movie, is a Knight of Malta, as well as Avery Dulles, as Reinhard Gehlen, as Lyndon B. Johnson. So Lyndon B. Johnson knew Henry R. Luce because they are both Sovereign Knights of Malta, as well as Clay Shaw, who was one of the main figures being mentioned in the trial of Mr. Jim Garrison, Knight of Malta, being protected, of course, by all the other Knights of Malta. And then there was the then Bishop of Dallas, Thomas Key Gorman, Sovereign Knight of Malta, as well as Cardinal James Bellman, the so-called American Pope, or the Archbishop of New York, also being Sovereign Knight of Malta, as well as the Assistant Director to J. Edgar Hoover, who was a 33-degree Freemason, but then by Cartha D. DeLoach, who was also a Knight of Malta. And also Lee Iacocca being in charge of the presidential limousine after the assassination from the Ford Motor Company, a Sovereign Knight of Malta. As well, of course, as William Casey, who said that the official doctrine of the CIA is that they have to spread misinformation, a Knight of Malta. As well as the head of the counterintelligence espionage, James Jesus Angleton, who was not only CIA but a Sovereign Knight of Malta. I could go on and on and on and on. But apart from the fact that these are now clergymen, combined with politicians, combined with publishers, combined with Secret Service agents or Secret Service directors even, they all are in the Sovereign Military Knight of Malta, Brett.
Yep.
So if you talk about deep state, you have to talk about the Sovereign Military Knight of Malta. It is military. It's not the Sovereign Mother of Malta. It is military. So it's about war or shedding blood. That's what it's all about. So you see now the ties, just a small example here, dear listeners, just the ties between politics and between the church, or state and church, combined in the Sovereign Military Order of Malta, with a diplomatic passport, so they have real immunity. Cannot charge them, because they are sovereign. Cannot charge them, cannot say that, oh yeah, if, for example, Mr. Allen Dulles would not only be the director of the CIA, but had a passport of the Sovereign Military of Knights of Malta, let's just assume, then he would be an inhabitant of Malta, of the sovereign military order, and you cannot sue him because he's bound to Malta. He can only be charged in Malta or in the Vatican, actually, where the sovereign military knight of Malta, actually we have to rename then the sovereign military knight of the Vatican. Would be more fitting, huh? Because they are not located in Malta anymore. Yeah, and so that is also the key thing when it comes down to any pictures and any persona, any movies, when it comes down to the Kennedy assassination. Everything can be faked, every book, because the Vatican Church or the Roman Church says that they are in charge, and they gave a warning in 1957, a warning to all the people who are using television, radio broadcasts, and newspapers. A warning. Mr. Jim Garrison, the district attorney then, who set up in 1968 that official investigation about the JFK assassination, there is a book from Joan Mellon called A Farewell to Justice. Very interesting quote in the page 370. I will enlarge it so that listeners and Brett can easily grasp that. Mr. James Jesus Angleton, the leader of the counter-espionage, says, quote, Alan Dulles, Richard Helms, Carmel Offey, and Frank Weisner were the Grand Masters. It's very interesting to know that there are Grand Masters in the sovereign military knight of Malta as well as masters in the Freemason. And there you can assume that they are both two sides of a coin. If you were in a room with them, you were in a room full of people that you had to believe would deservedly end up in hell. I guess I will see them there soon. I think if that quote is correct, I do not need to comment that. What these people are up to, it's about evil. And that's the reason why many people do not hear the voice of their shepherd anymore. I'm against the image here, of course, for obvious reasons, second commandment, but I find that comic quite fitting. People are distracted by television, smartphones, laptops, headphones, digests, magazines, radio, broadcasts, don't know what. And but the written word of God is lying under the table, in the closet, I don't know where. But people are being distracted. They cannot hear anything because they'll be bombarded with useless information. Yeah. So we do not know if these pictures are correct, Brett. Yeah, everything can be faked. Some people say that, oh, he's standing in a Freemason stance. As you see, I don't care. There are no records of him being a Freemason. But there is a valid point in believing that they are more than one Oswald. That also he has a doppelganger or a body double or somebody as an impersonator. And that's a very valid point because you achieve that and you realize that and you will come across that many times. In a German newspaper, I found that article that, of course, the Iraqian dictator Saddam Hussein, who was being accused then 20 years ago having weapons of mass destruction, had at least 3 body doubles. So you do not know which one was killed. It's the same as Osama bin Laden. You see that in 2011, CIA claims to have been killing this man, as well as the former Pakistani Prime Minister Benazir Bhutto, who said in 2007 that Osama bin Laden had been killed. Yeah, so either he had been killed twice to be absolutely sure that he's really dead, or there are several Osama bin Ladens. And it's your choice. I cannot prove it. I just have to point out the fact that the character of Lee Harvey Oswald is not that quite clear. And of course, it's a lame excuse for Mr. Jacob Rubenstein to say, I did it for Jackie. It's absolutely hogwash. Problem is that his defenders, they claimed about his mental insanity and said, oh, yeah, he was a victim of MK Ultra. A certain Mr. West plays a key role in that. But it's just belief. Yeah? It's just belief. because either way around, he was Lee Harvey Oswald, and that is not just a shitty movie. Lee Harvey Oswald was not meant to tell anything. Yeah, so it's all about disinformation. It's just about that the American public has to believe something. Yeah, that everything the American public believes is false, including 1969. We are going to the moon. In your dreams. Yeah, it's all always overthrowing governments. It's all covert operations, misleading tactics. It's all about lying, actually, Brett. It's all about lying. Yeah. In the book Jesuit Hollywood, we find the interesting curriculum of Lee Harvey Oswald, but is it really necessary to go into that? I don't think so, because that if you have a slight suspicion that Mr. Lee Harvey Oswald is not that quite sober character that the media wants to present us, or a mature character, or a lone nut, then everything else can also be fake too. Zip. Zip. Yeah. Yeah. Oswald gets to New Orleans. Oswald speaks to a Jesuit group for 30 minutes on the subject of contemporary Russia and the practice of communism. I think we have covered that in the last session. Let's get it on. 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 I have to rely once again to King Kill 33 by James Shelby Downyard. Very interesting thing. In 1947, Jakob Rubenstein changed his name to Jack Ruby. A ruby, or a carbuncle ruby, is associated with the breastplate of judgment used by the chosen misbet, which are the high priests of Jewish sorcery, enabling them to receive divine answers regarding the welfare of Judaism. Some interpretations claim that the breastplate of judgment manifested the immediate presence of Jehovah and was also worn by Masons in royal arch chapters. Oh, interesting, huh? Would come close to my suspicion, Brett, that he was working for the Freemasons, but because it happened in the Freemason temple. Once again, that murder or official murder of Oswald happened in Dealey Plaza. This breastplate, which contained 12 stones, each symbolizes one of the 12 tribes of Israel. The carbuncle of ruby was connected to the tribe of Judah. The term Jack Ruby was once used by pawnbrokers, indicated a fake ruby. And that I found absolutely interesting. So that his name, Jack Ruby, which was not original birth name, is also used by pawnbrokers to indicate a fake. And now you can remember last session that I said, I think that that shooting was fake. Because it was too risky. Too many bystanders. Too many people involved. It has to look great on television, but that's it. In an iconic ruby or carbuncle symbolizes blood, suffering, and death. Yeah, of course, hence the color, huh? But I found that very interesting, a fake ruby. Now, so ruby is also fake because, of course, it's a fake ruby then of the name of Jack Ruby because it's not his original name. It is just the alias as if he was acting like an actor, Brett. Means I'm not so... Come on, this is really interesting. Oh, no, Michael, what shall I tell you? I'm just a carpenter who's trying to get awake. Really? Brett?
Yeah.
Are you awake?
No.
You can't answer when you are not awake.
No.
I got you. Okay, so this is all just acting, more or less. A fake ruby. A fake shot. Yeah? Come on, people. He was running a nightclub, dealing with the mafia, being an FBI informant. Do you think that guy is honest? Really? Yeah. Okay. The Life magazine did a presentation of the assassination of President Kennedy. You got a big problem with that, Brett. I forgot that in a German session, but now I'm getting aware of that. Look at that picture, Brett, and tell me what's wrong. Prove that you are awake.
Which one? The one on the right or the left?
The right is false. Why?
Ah, the car.
Yeah.
Because there was more seats than just that.
Yeah.
3 rows of seats.
Yeah, isn't that something? And
Yeah.
they get away with that.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, they are just picturing another car with some set of flowers. And they get away with that. My. You see that everybody would think, yeah, she's carrying flowers and that car, and that is President Kennedy assassination. There are flowers. That's the car. That is not the car. They are playing tricks on you. It's unbelievable. Yeah. And then they have promoted that Zapruder movie, or bits of the Zapruder movie, that Jackie crawled for help. We will go into that extensively, I can tell you. And that, of course, he was killed. By Jack Ruby. Yeah, by a fake Ruby, huh? Oh my, so much so. I will get now fast through that script. I'm so sick of all the things. Yeah, really, you can go endlessly into that. All the people surrounded by Lee Harvey Oswald are FBI or CIA in the case of Ruth Paine. Yeah, so that's all. He got a job by Ruth Paine, by CIA. He got a job at the Texas School Book Depository. You see, come on, every researcher knows that. You don't need me to repeat all the things. It is just absolutely clear what happened. Okay. There are so many connections to the CIA. Yeah, it's out in the open. It's out in the open. Yeah, I'm not intending to go into all this because it's really futile. It's just known facts. So he was not a lone nut. He was been assisted by the CIA, at least. So, great. There is an article by that district attorney Jim Garrison, when was it? I don't know. In Playboy magazine, he said the murder of Officer J.D. Tibbet, the policeman who had been shot after the assassination of Kennedy, and the so-called Second Oswald. Second Oswald. Remind you of CIA dis- and misinformation program and different identities. Yeah. So I'm relying you to this interview. Playboy said, you mentioned earlier that the so-called Second Oswald had impersonated the real Lee Harvey Oswald before the assassination in an attempt to incriminate him. What proof do you have of this? Garrison replied, I hesitate to use the words the Second Oswald because they tend to lend to an additional fictional quality to a case that already makes Dr. No and Goldfinger look like auditor's report. However, it is true that before the assassination, a calculated effort was made to implicate Oswald in the event to come. A young man approximating Oswald's description and using Oswald's name, we believe he have discovered his identity. Engaged in a variety of activities designed to create such a strong impression of Oswald's instability and culpability in people's minds that they would recall him as a suspicious character after the president was murdered. In one instant, a man went to an auto sales room, gave his name as Lee Oswald, test drove a car at 80 miles an hour, and Oswald couldn't drive. And after creating an ineradicable impression on the salesman by speeding, graciously remarked that he might go back to the Soviet Union and was expected to come into a large sum of money. Yeah. Parenthetically, the salesman who described the Second Oswald was subsequently beaten almost to death by unknown assailants outside his showroom. He later fled Dallas, and last year he was found dead. It was officially declared a suicide. In other instances, the Second Oswald visited a shooting range in Dallas and gave a virtuoso demonstration of marksmanship, hitting not only his own bullseye, but the bullseye of neighboring targets as well, thus leaving an unforgettable impression of his skill with the rifle. The real Oswald, of course, was a mediocre shot. This can also be misinformation, disinformation, but there are a bunch of people outside who claim that there is so much fishy about the character or the impersonation of Oswald. Yeah. So we do not know anything. Don't go extensively into Oswald. I just showed last time with the first part with the fake killing of Jack Ruby. I thought that was of utterly importance to really get the point that when Secret Services are involved, you don't get anything but entertainment for the general audience. So that was from October 1967. What's that? As well as the firing rate of Oswald also is not only debated, but you cannot do that in that short amount of time. I don't want to go into all of that. I had to read all of that. Yeah, we will come to that day of assassinations quite soon, I believe you. You believe me. You better believe me. Yeah. So 4 months before he shot JFK, Lee Harvey Oswald lectured the Jesuits because a cousin of him was applying to get to be a Jesuit priest. Yeah, what do we expect? What his ties are? CIA, Jesuits. It's all over the place. It's all over the place. It's all over the place, really. I do not. I do not want to bore people. Yeah. The interesting thing also is that you find in some researchers' books and also in an official magazine, you find this picture. And you find that picture in the Life magazine's Oswald Full Russian Diary of 1964. Yeah, that being that magazine here. Oswald called it my historic diary, and it is, of course, has been made money with by his infamous wife. And you see here a man with a dark sunglass, and that has been described as Marina Oswald's uncle, the KGB Secret Service Colonel Vasily Kretinin. And if I was informed correctly, Brett, that Mr. Oswald was given permission to have his entry into the Soviet Union within 24 hours. I think that is highly unlikely in 1950, 1960.
Yeah, what's with that?
Yeah, what's with that? Yeah. So you see that here it's Uncle Vasily Kretinin. And many people debunked that, said, oh no, that is not true. But if or if not does not mean anything, because that it is so strange that somebody that young of age gets to the Soviet Union, then meets a wife, then marries her, have 2 children. You see, that is so obvious. It's so extraordinary out of the open. And so I don't care if it's correct or not with the KGB. I know that he's CIA. You see that. Do I need more proof? Yeah. There are many other relatives of Marina I came across. Yuri Mikhailov, also high position, responsible position in building traders program. You see, this is not a usual workers club, Brett. These are not carpenters. These are not milkmaids. These are not clerk office officials. Yeah, these are interesting people here. And it gets worse. If you think about it, it's interesting, 201 file, Jesuits once again. It's interesting if you go into his wife, so-called alleged wife, Marina Oswald Porter, you see what there is in the Wikipedia. We mentioned her uncle, another uncle, Ilya Prusakov, a colonel in the Soviet Ministry of Internal Affairs. Do I need more? These are no regular people. And she was studying pharmacy. Well, great. Yeah, so many people think that Marina was a sleeper agent. Of course, she was used, at least by the CIA. 2 years after Oswald's death, she married Kenneth Jess Porter, with whom she had a son. That was a character officially twice divorced black racer who was in jail 11 weeks after the marriage. So much for dirty laundry. Many people claim that she was not a reliable witness. Yeah, because once she said so, other times she said another thing. Yeah. In the book The Death of the President by William Manchester, she's been mentioning quite a lot. You see that here highlighted. She remained first in Dallas, Texas. And then she made money big time. Yeah, $10,000 payment for the gun, which wasn't the gun which Kennedy was been shot with, and $70,000 of charity. Then the Russian diary of her man was been sold for $20,000. She was making money. Yeah. There is also a lawyer called Nicholas Katzenbach, very interesting character. Nicholas Katzenbach was the assistant justice minister in Alabama, and this Mr. Katzenbach, this lawyer, has in the 25th of November, 3 days after the assassination, after the killing of Kennedy, he wrote a letter to Bill Moyers, his special assistant of the Vice President, Lyndon B. Johnson, then president, and said that you have to convince the public from the low nut theory of Mr. Oswald. And he's in relation to his ex-wife or his widow, or maybe how to call her. So it's hilarious to go all into this. It's just Kim Philby. You see that Eric John Fels is pointing out that the Kennedy assassination, Lee Harvey's obvious links to Kim Philby's KGB. They are all playing the part because the Surrey Military Night of Malta, yeah, they're playing left and right, means the USA on the left and the Russians on the right, or on the west and the east. It's always the same. It's the same coin, but it's a different side. So there are so many interesting connections, but if you really think that he was a low nut, I can't help it. Yeah, I don't think so. Yeah, these are all linked to the Vatican intelligence through Grandmaster of the Surrey Military Knight of Malta. It's so obvious. You see, these people are running the secret services. These people are running the assassinations. They are shedding blood. It's the purpose of a knight. You draw your sword. What do? You fight. You're not arguing. You're not a diplomat. You're not a politician. You fight. Remember that speechwriter of Kennedy was refused to get the job as a CIA director because he did not fight. He was not part of the American army, therefore he could not have the job of the CIA director. Now, so you had to fight. And we talked about that Kim Philby character also in our Satanic Media sessions about Christopher Lee, James Bond, Secret Service Police, because that drummer of the Police, the band The Police, has been named, his band, against the former occupation of his father, who was a spy. And he also had issued a book called My Father the Spy. The names of that guy is Stuart Copeland. It's a drummer of the Police. He's the head of the Police, of the band, not Sting. People think that, oh yeah, the one screaming in front is the most important guy. No, these are always the people behind. It's a very interesting example when you think about the band The Police. Yeah, if you have a picture of a band, The Police, for example, yeah, take this picture. Yeah, you think that the guys who making the action on top, that Sting, yeah, that is the guy who has written the songs and he's a prominent member and all the things and he's the important guy. But that is that guy in that background. Yeah, he says, oh, you have to dance according to my beat. I make you jump. Now, these are not the guys in the first row. These are the man behind. He was the boss of the police. Naming a band after the occupation of his father being in the secret police, huh? Yeah. Yeah. His father's role in overthrowing governments and assassination plots and how they befriended in a famous Soviet double agent of the name of Kim Philby. Yeah, we talked about that in the Satanic Media Agenda. These are all secret agents. If you are been occupied professionally at the CIA, you're also secret agents because you have to keep silent about your secrets. And it's also no secret that the father of that Jim Morrison from the band The Doors was being in charge during the attack on the so-called Tonkin accident in 1964, which actually enlightened the Vietnam War. So that must be another coincidence, that it was the father of the world famous band leader of Jim Morrison. Yeah, of course, also. That is Mr. Kim Philby. He was not only American CIA, but also Russian KGB and also the British MI5, MI6, and who knows what, maybe also Italian, maybe also France. I don't know. He's all things to all men. It's like Reinhard Gehlen being an SS general and CIA and Mossad at the same time, or once after the other, but actually the guy in the uniform stays the same. Yeah, and that is one of the key players who said that I will meet all the guys, including Alan Dulles, in hell. That is the Knight of Malta, James Jesus Angleton, the chief of counterintelligence. So he knew exactly what Oswald had to do. And he knows exactly, I think, almost everything about the assassination of Kennedy. Okay, he's dead now, but nevertheless, they are all been staged by the guys of the counterintelligence to fool other people. Disinformation program. And I could bet that there was a special facility within the CIA, or where else, or FBI maybe, responsible only for handing over daily misinformation about the case of the assassination of Kennedy. I don't know how many people there are, but these people are giving out official information, declarifying information, supporting researchers officially, and all the things. It is much more important, it is much more complex to hide the assassination than to put out one. Yeah, to put out the assassination, you need a plan, you need many good men, and you need silence, a vow of silence. But to cover it up for almost 60 years now, that requires a lot of manpower and a lot of media control. And that's why I'm not going a court, because I'm not a person who wants to have only the exoteric things, but I really want to know what's behind the Kennedy assassination. I want to know what is about the Kennedy. I want to know what is about. And according to an FBI informer, Oswald was shot. And J. Edgar Hoover phoned the White House and left a message for the then President Johnson, quote, "The thing I'm most concerned about is having something issued so that we can convince the public that Oswald is the real assassin." No, that was the only goal of the Warren Commission. That was the only goal. And also George de Mohrenschildt is a very interesting character, also a Knight of Malta. Oh, and he died also in strange coincidences. And George de Mohrenschildt is in direct contact to Lee Harvey Oswald. So he was in contact with KGB, with CIA, and with Sovereign Military Knight of Malta. And he was lecturing the Jesuits 4 months below the assassination. Brad, what more do you know? What more do you need? Brad has muted his mic.
I said not much.
Not much. Oh, sorry. Maybe you're too.
No. You were right. You were 100% correct.
Oh, okay.
My mic muted. I was like, what?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh. Yeah, I had to do a little adjustment here, so I shut the mic off for a second. I forgot.
No problem, Brad. You know, I do not intend to be rude ever. You know, it's just
no. I know.
I was wondering that. Yeah, I was wondering.
No.
You see that all the connections here, Brett. It's just one agency after the other: FBI, CIA, KGB, SMOM. It's always the same, and the SMOM is by far the most prominent and prolific agency of all. So it's also been carried out with the help of the SMOM. Why? Because John F. Kennedy was not a Sovereign Knight of Malta, but a Knight of Columbus, which is the American branch, so to speak. And his father, Joe Kennedy, was also very prominent and a key Knight of Malta. So they had the approval of the SMOM to carry out the attack on the president.
Makes sense to me.
Makes sense to me too. You have all these suspects here in everywhere. This Alan Dulles is at the same time a Freemason, at the same time Suriname Knight of Malta. You see, that's always the same. These are not representative of the state of the civilians. You have to really see that. Knight of Columbus, Knight of Malta, Knight of Malta. And if somebody of them is a Freemason or is KKK or whatsoever, I don't care. You see, these are not regular representatives. A representative of the state or representative of the civilians, of the people, of the state, of the United States, would not be a member of any secret society. Because if you're a member of a secret society, you have something to hide, huh? At least I found one interesting researcher. The name is Jack White. Jack White made very interesting videos. It's about the JFK Zapruder works. We will go into that next session. But within this session, I want to mention his interesting abilities about the Lee Harvey Oswald case. And he also says, oh, that is also false defectors. So that means there are several identities and several passports. And of course, if you are the agency or the agency, you can hand over real-looking passports. One is as good as the other. So really the question is, are there more than one identity or persona of Lee Harvey Oswald? Maybe one is Lee and one is Harvey. Because usually you talk about Lee Harvey Oswald, you don't say Mr. Oswald or you don't say Lee Oswald. Usually all the words says Lee Harvey Oswald. So having two names, maybe there are also two persons. And Jack White has talked about that extensively and said, oh yeah, there are W-2 forms from the government and they are being issued on the same typewriter, but with different ID numbers. Yeah, and as he said, he claimed that the FBI faked that forms. He said that the FBI faked these forms. Once again, he said that the birthday of the two candidates, so to speak, are 11 days apart. Harvey and Lee. According to his research, according to the official documents. So who's? And he said that, oh yeah, there are many pictures around, like Harvey and Marina, 1962. Yeah, B. Marina Oswald. Yeah, but Harvey was in New Orleans in 1955. And New Orleans is the birth town of Lee Harvey Oswald. It's very interesting if you think about that the government has every picture of you, and so they can therefore compare who's most suited to be an impersonator of somebody. I think that's quite logic, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because Lee Harvey Oswald was about, I think it was 5'7", and this guy is 5'9". Yeah. And so they have also all your files and all the names. And he really did make a lot of research. I don't know if that is correct. I cannot research everything, but it's just a thing that when he comes up, Marina, they are fake baby doll photos. He said that these are fake baby dolls. These are just puppets. So everything can be made up. Maybe he was not married at all. Maybe his wife was a KGB agent. Maybe the children were fake. Because it's the agency. You are dealing with the agency. You are dealing with the agency, which is under the hierarchy of the military Knights of Malta, which is under the hierarchy of etc., but it's just a hierarchy. And when they say that, oh yeah, we have to have some photos, that it looks very real that he was in the Soviet Russian and then he met a wife, yeah, to construct a profile of somebody who would fit then as a so-called known assassin. So the question is if Lee Harvey Oswald is actually his real name and real identity. There is many confusion. It's not that so easy as you would think, because we know for sure that so-called Lee Harvey Oswald has opened a post office box under the name of A.J. Heidel. Yeah, and also the rifle that has been pointed in this infamous backyard picture, it was not the rifle that was shown by the Dallas police as the assassination rifle. Oh, guys, really. Yeah, it's because of the sling. Yeah, it's not the Jack White said not the gun in the backyard photos. Yeah, because the side sling ring is on a different place, different location at the gun. Can't imagine, you see, that everything can be faked. Every picture, every name, every document, every passport, everything can be faked if you are working for the agency. And Harvey Oswald was working for the agency. It's unbelievable, but you see that you have to bear with anything. Satan is the father of lies. So many deathbed confessions. You see that JFK has at least been shot 12 times. Because there are so many people who are confessing on deathbed confessions. It's unbelievable. But it's all disinformation. In the backyard picture, Lee Harvey Oswald has a white chin. Actually, he had a very small chin, but you see, it's everything can be faked. Let's verwendet. Man, that heat outside.
Yeah.
And as everything can be faked, I came across that book. It's called Dr. Mary's Monkey. How the unsolved murder of a doctor, a secret laboratory in New Orleans, and a cancer-causing monkey virus are linked to Lee Harvey Oswald, the JFK assassination, and emerging global epidemics. Oh, of course, that was 1963, not 2022. I got my troubles with that book because we know that the CIA is a disinformation and misinformation agency. So we do not know if the content of that book is really reliable or not. We do not know. There is free content on the internet on archive.org available about Mary, Ferry, and the monkey virus. Once again, not 2022, 1963. It's about Mary Sherman being a murdered cancer researcher and about David Ferry being a so-called violent political extremist. The problem you now will see with Mr. Ferry is that David Ferry and Lee Harvey Oswald were together in the Civil Air Patrol in 1955. That was an education facility, Mr. Oswald and Mr. Ferry, education facility run by whom? By Mr. Bird. You know who Mr. Bird is? Oh, Brad, he is owning a very interesting building in Dallas. That guy. You know what building I'm talking about,
I would guess the school book depository.
Yeah, spot on. Yeah, so they all been in that circle of people. Yeah? And Mr. Ferry also was a CIA agent. Huh? So now you see. What means as a cancer researcher has something to do with the CIA. That's the first hint. There is a second hint coming. And of course, Lee Harvey Oswald knew David Ferry. Yeah, of course, the CIA denies everything until this very day. Ferry had known Lee Harvey Oswald or anything about Mr. Oswald or anybody of the first or second Oswald when he was a cadet at the Civil Air Patrol. Yeah, so that David Ferry was also a pilot smuggling things. And Mr. Garrison said, I can't agree or disagree since I have no evidence one way or the other, but we have discovered that David Ferry had a rather curious hobby in addition to his study of cartridge trajectories, cancer research. He filled his apartment with white mice At one point, he had almost 2,000, and neighbors complained, wrote a medical treatise on the subject, and worked with a number of New Orleans doctors on means of inducing cancer in mice. After the assassination, one of these physicians, Dr. Mary Sherman, was found hacked to death with a kitchen knife in a New Orleans apartment. Her murder is listed as unsolved. Ferry's experiments may have been purely theoretical, and Dr. Sherman's death completely unrelated to her association with Ferry. But I do find it interesting that Jack Ruby died of cancer a few weeks after his conviction for murder had been overruled in appeals court, and he was ordered to stand trial outside of Dallas, thus allowing him to speak freely if he so desired. I would also note that there was little hesitancy in killing Lee Harvey Oswald in order to prevent him from talking, so there is no reason to suspect that any more consideration would have been shown Jack Ruby if he had posed a threat to the architects of the conspiracy. So that is just opinion of Garrison, as that is a verifiable quote. You have to consider one other strange things. If that is correct, the information that I was being supplied with is that the Warren Commission came together for a special meeting at the same day when the killing of Mary Sherman happened. And this Mr. David Ferry, who happened to be a CIA asset as well, and knew Lee Harvey Oswald, look what's been written here. Ferry attended St. Mary's Seminary where he studied for the priesthood. So, a priest, a CIA agent, has to do with cancer research and has been known to Lee Harvey Oswald. What a coincidence. According to that very strange character of Judith Baker, Ferry worked with Dr. Alton Oxner and Dr. Mary Sherman in a CIA secret project to kill Castro. This involved creating the means to ensure Canso developed cancer. If there is some truth of that, I'd say that it was not about killing Castro, because we know that Castro was also a Jesuitical issue or a Jesuitical detail, Brett. Mm-hmm. So that was just a lame excuse for something else. That is a biological warfare, Brett. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing with that book here, that it has something to do with Lee Harvey Oswald. There are very strange coincidences in his world. I did not succeed in finding a photo of that Dr. Oxner together with a certain CIA director or creator, founder William Wildman Donovan, both elected officers of the American Cancer Society. So a CIA officer can also be an officer of the American Cancer Society. Or once again, a connection between pharmacy and Secret Service.
Well, really? That seems to make a little sense because, you know, what do we know about cancer? Well, cancer is something that we were told, you know, when we were young that, you know, well, the doctors are trying to cure cancer, you know, and we got to fund them. We got to give them more money so they can figure it out. And well, all the while, the cancer has been used to, what can we say, control people through death.
Yeah, making big profits as well.
And making big profits while you're doing so, yes. Michael.
Yeah, I was been told, Brett, actually a few weeks ago, I came across the fact that I read something about that cancer chemotherapy, that the hospital asks up to 200,000 euros for the treatment. For some poison.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. That's what it costs.
Yeah, so that means that if you want to be a household name in a medical facility, or you want to be a very rich, wealthy guy having several Porsches or something like that, you have to sell chemotherapy. It's one of the most profitable items in medical treatments, I think. I don't know what the cost of these so-called medicine is, but you see that somebody is making money big time, either the doctors, the hospital, the pharmaceutical companies. I don't know who, but it's just out of the world. It had nothing to do with health. It's just injecting poison. You see that the ingredients of that chemotherapy, if I was remembered correctly, if I've been informed correctly, they are similar to the poison they used in the First World War to kill people. Of course, now been injected, but then had been inhaled on the battlefields. Huh? But it's just, I don't know what to make out of it, but you see, there are also many other researchers who are making then research about who's meeting who, and this is just one example here. Yeah, you see, there are so many people relying to each other. Yeah, CIA together with Leclerc and the New Orleans stuff, Oxnard alleged of MK Ultra. Yeah, Dallas stuff, Jake Ruby. Yeah, but you see that White Vatican, SMOM, it's just endlessly. There is just one thing in common, because if they are part of the plot to kill Kennedy, they're all in the anti-Christian spirit. They're all against Jesus Christ. Yeah, mafia, CIA, it's secrets. Yeah. For what reason, Brett, did Time Life contain the Zapruder movie for years? Years.
That's right.
Yeah.
What other movies are they containing for years? Yeah. That will be yet to be exposed at some, eternal destiny. I would hope. And not in this life, I don't think. We'll see.
Yeah, so I don't speculate about things many other people do. At the moment, I'm not speculating about what kind of shots, because I got absolutely another task and another idea about that. So coming back to that book, it has something to do with the murder of 1964. It's very close to that Kennedy assassination ritual, of course. And that says that here that following a trail of police records, FBI files, cancer statistics, and medical journals, this revealing book presents evidence of a web of medical secret keeping that began with the handing of evidence in the JFK assassination. So the accused here, that book, that also the Harvey Oswald was been busy with handing over things from New Orleans to Mexico and to all the stuff. Yeah, we cannot prove that. That is just that we know that Harvey Oswald lived then in New Orleans until they moved to Dallas a few weeks before the assassination in Dallas took place. So I'm totally convinced that he was a CIA asset. But you see that who's Oswald we are talking about? That's why I really want to focus, when we are going into the examination of the Zapruder movie and all the other stuff from your President Kennedy, that we really rely on common sense and on symbolic and all the things, because otherwise you see that they can hand over information and you can also have false witnesses, also no problem. You can't rely on anything. Yeah. The publisher of that book is Mr. Edward T. Haslam. And he was educated at the Jesuit High School in New Orleans. He openly admits that. But nevertheless, the book can also be true, or some kind of truth, because you do not know what Mr. Haslam has an opinion about truth, or what kind of information he had given, which is maybe misinformation. We do not know. Yeah. So he looks into the combination or connection between Mary Sherman cancer research, Dr. Alton Oxner, and David Ferry, CIA, Guy Bannister, yeah, also Lee Harvey Oswald, CIA, and the assassination of Kennedy. It's always the same, but the problem that I got is you do not know what kind of information that is. Therefore, I wrote to our researcher friend Derry Eberhard, and I told him that I suspect that everything that's been written in that book is really happened that way. And he told me that thanks very much for your input. Despite Haslam's bad connections, the book does provide some very important information about the JFK assassination, some of which impacts today's current events, such as the epidemic.
Probably 90 to 95 of all the books about the JFK assassination have at least some degree of disinformation or misinformation, eat the meat and spit off the bones. Yeah, that's why I do not go into the things about that Lee Harvey Oswald shot the president, because it's obvious that he can't have shot the president. But it is just that he himself, he did not admit it. He said that he's a patsy. There is no trial, and so it had been evaluated only by the Warren Commission, which was a Freemason apparatus. So I listened to so many things about that. I'm really sick about it because I cannot detect and I cannot verify the real character of Judith Baker, if she's telling the truth or not. There are so many people who are putting out that opinion and that opinion. What we know is that Dr. Mary Sherman was being killed very cruelly. Many people claim that it was suicide. She was a cancer researcher. And you see, it's just distraction. We want to look for the religious background according to the Bible for the killing of the king, of the sacrifice king, JFK. And I'm so sorry that I just robbing your time on that, because I had to look up so many things that was interesting me. Look at this. Ah, repetition, yeah. So that's the character. What's all about is Dr. Mary Sherman. And really also Wikipedia tells you that she was a cancer researcher in New Orleans, Louisiana. And that the autopsy classified her death as a homicide. And Dr. Samuels determined that Sherman died of a stab wound in her heart. Most of the right side of her upper torso, including her right arm, had been incinerated, Brad.
What?
And it's not the regular homicide.
No.
Yeah, and many people think that she had a connection of being tortured with a 1,000,000-volt particle accelerator in that underground facility. If that is correct, you see that we can never prove that. Yeah, you see, people are going that road and say that there was a process in using radiation to develop cancer using monkey viruses to use as a weapon to kill Castro. If you would apply that to 2022, you would also only have to exchange the names. Oh my, oh my, oh my. So I cannot tell you what's right and what's wrong. Yeah, I can tell you there is no sense in believing that Mr. Oswald killed anybody. Because first of all, you cannot agree on which Oswald you are referring to. It's all just staged by the intelligence service or disinformation service or counterintelligence. Yeah, you see that it's for a fake card in the name of Alex James Heidel. Yeah, you see. It does not make sense. You see, that's all just for the television, for the layman, that he said, okay, now we found the one who has shot Jack Ruby. But you can't prove anything. And that's the real problem with it. You can't prove anything. Yeah, but you can prove that all these people I've mentioned today, they are part of a secret societies. And therefore, they are just working for somebody else. And not for the official Texas Schoolbook Depository, but for the CIA. And not for the FBI, but for the Freemasons in the case of Edgar J. Hoover. And not for the American public in the case of Allen Dulles, but for the Surreal Military Knight of Malta. You really have to see behind the curtain, and then you see that they have all the same secret agenda to spread and to introduce Luciferian spirit. And if somebody is there, like maybe John F. Kennedy, who wants to do something for his voters and for the American public, then of course he's against the agenda. Yeah. So Oswald was at the Texas Theater to have a resemblance to the, not because he had so much spare time, he was being used as a patsy, but because that he had to. It was part of the plan, of the ritual, because he had to go to a theater because the murder on Abraham Lincoln, the other president 100 years before coming into office in 1860, he was being shot in a Ford theater, and Kennedy was being shot in a Lincoln made by Ford, and then Mr. Harvey Oswald, or Lee Harvey Oswald, or who else, had to go to the theater, of course. So it's all a ritual here. What was he really doing inside the Texas Theater? Yet ask me. Timing is all. No, it's just ritual is all. It's Freemasonry here. That is the official story. Yeah. But somebody also had slipped into the theater, but that person was not Oswald. Yeah, Oswald behaved oddly. Yeah, of course, to create some visibility. Yeah, that people say that, oh yeah, we got a strange guy in a movie theater. Yeah, sure. If you had shot the American president, then you go watch the film. My. All these strange things. He never admitted it, the case, and he was never been. The case is not closed. Yeah, it's just utterly pointless. Yeah, how would you want to prove Judith Baker's story? I can't. I do not even know that if she is an asset, maybe. Yeah, so maybe then she's now being paid by some agency that she's coming out with that book, and she said, oh, I was frightened all my life because of all the trouble and all the other deaths and murders surrounding the victims and surrounding the witnesses of the JFK case, and there were many, like Dorothy McKilgan. But I cannot prove it. You see that it would be too time consuming. That series is here to improve and to hand over some information that you can start your research. If you are interested in cancer research, when it comes down to monkey viruses, then maybe you have to read that book of Dr. Mary's Monkey. I don't know. Maybe you have to. Yeah. But that medicine and pharmacy is very much related to politics. That's not since 2019. Yeah, it has been happened long before. They tried that with how to say that, with swine flu, they tried it with bird flu, they tried it with so many other things, and then they finally succeeded a short time before to frighten all the people. We will come up to that infamous Zapruder movie. Yeah, there are no coincidences in Dealey Plaza because it is a temple, it is a worship of pagan gods, images, and idols. Therefore, all the things happening there, especially on that assassination date, were no coincidences. The epileptic seizure was no coincidence, according to my knowledge. And that Lee Harvey Oswald was occupied in that building was also planned before, staged everything before. It is all been staged. That is a temple. Yeah? So it is no coincidence that these are Maltese crossbred.
Yeah, that's right.
And you mentioned that before, I remember.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that is not a picture from that assassination moment, but there were not that much people in Dealey Plaza. And I would suggest that you think about that the majority of people in Dealey Plaza were Secret Service people. Many of them around, inside and outside. So when the famous photographer Ike Ortkins asked to stand on the triple underpass, on that triple underpass where the railroad lines are, a so-called policeman refused and sent him away. But you can't be sure that that policeman was a policeman. Maybe he was a Secret Service agent or some other bloke, or maybe a mobster. Don't know. Yeah. So there's many distractions. Some say this, some say that. The motorcade does not include Elm Street. I've seen newspaper where it did. Yeah, but it's just a treat of death, Elm Street. It's so obvious where the president was hit. Yeah, these are also there are 22 steps, and that can also be not indicated 22 degree on Freemasons, but a 22 path of the Sephi Road. So many going on the Dealey Plaza actually. I came across a very interesting table. Read we could go on and on and on only with the Dealey Plaza.
Mm-hmm.
Because nothing happens by random. But I think that after 8 sessions about the ritual alone, I don't think that anybody can doubt that it has a special meaning when it appeared on Dealey Plaza and not on the main street or somewhere else. And also the killing of Oswald took place here. No, that's Main Street. Took place here. That's the old court, that's the new court, that's the Dallas police station then. Yeah, it happened here. So there are no coincidences, nowhere near. Yeah, so what to expect in the next session? The next session will be named the Zapruder fairy tale. Yeah, because they want to convince you that it all happened randomly, by accident. By accident, yeah. It's the same thing as 9/11, by the way. Oh, I cannot mention the September attacks. Because they collected all the evidence of pictures and movies, of course, only for evaluation processes, but many people did not get their movies and pictures back. It's the same as in the Pentagon attack, Brett, if you remember, that the FBI collected all the evidence of the Pentagon attacks.
Mm-hmm. Right, that's true.
So many surveillance cameras from gas stations, etc., and nothing is available on the internet, on YouTube, up to this very day. Yeah, so much for freedom of information. Yeah, and so this Rosemary Willis, for example, she heard, according to the House Select Committee on Assassinations, at least 4 loud shots during the assassination. Yeah. Yeah, you can look it up here. Even though she was a very close assassination witness, Rosemary was never interviewed by any Warren Commission investigators. Yeah, that is that woman. Never been asked, because it was clear from the beginning that Lee Harvey Oswald had to be the lone assassin. There was an interesting comment on that video. Somebody said Rosemary's old sister Linda was interviewed in 2011, and she said that the FBI took her father's photograph to study and later returned them. However, she believes that the photographs were altered because they did not appear the same as they did when they were published in Look magazine the week after the assassination. So I don't know. I cannot go into every little nitty-gritty. But it's very interesting that many people did not return the original material, so that had been modified, so to speak. Yeah, you can make up your own mind. There were so many things coming up. For example, that little gem here. It is very interesting that in this footage you can see people standing on the south side of Elm Street waving at the president as the limo passes by, but in the Zapruder film, the people on the opposite side of the street do not wave and do not react. Yeah, for an obvious reason. So that means that these pictures are modified. There is a accused Jesuitical coadjutor called Robert Groden. Robert Groden was the one who made that Zapruder movie, introduced that movie to the general public. So not only in 1968 for the Jim Garrison examination, but also to the general public. I think it must be in the beginning of the 1970s. And I found a video about it. It means is the JFK, the Case for Conspiracy by Robert F. Groden, with many strange things happening there, with a time that I cannot handle for the arrival of the president at the Love Field airport,
But Robert Groden, that movie production is also very not convincing because it misses out many interesting things. But just for the heck of it, because I did all the research before, I will just go into that very briefly. That documentary has big flaws, but it says that Elm Street, the crowds are just beginning to thin out. Yeah, sure, they did not want to have the crowds there if somebody would have failed. Yeah. The problem is that in this documentary you hear shots, and that can't be because the Zapruder movie, as well as the other movies, for example, of Orwell Nix, were silent. So this is this information here. Yeah, this is just to please the people. Many people said there were 3 loud explosions like firecrackers, and also these infamous shots, so to speak, and magic bullet and all the things, single bullet theory, yeah, all this ridiculous lies. And of course, if you shoot the president, you leave the empty shells and the gun. Good, sure. You see, a 10-year-old would know what's all about. That is just fake here. Yeah, we know that there are splices in that movie of, or in some, you see, there is no official Zapruder original movie available. It's just all copies and copies of copies. Yeah, so there are splices in the film. Yeah, it's not the original film. There are things missing out, so there are certain frames missing in that movie. There are so many strange artifacts. For example, that building here in the background. You see that building here in the background. I cannot come across in pictures or in Google Earth. Yeah, so I don't know if that is an artifact here or not. It's very strange, that movie, I can tell you. Yeah, but I found somebody who will go into that movie. Let's see if we are down. If we have, yeah. Yeah, unreleased copy including frames from an unreleased and intact copy of the Zapruder film, which was added before the original film was damaged by Life magazine. Oh, what a coincidence, huh? The original film was damaged by Life magazine. Brett, that publisher of Time magazine was Henry R. Lucci. What was he belonging to? A strange kind of a company?
Oh yeah, was he Knight of Malta?
Yeah. Oh, all a coincidence, huh? What a coincidence. All a bunch of coincidences. Yeah. All coincidences here. No? Yeah. Yeah. Lining up the shot problem is the background buildings do not match Dealey Plaza. Yeah, that's what I also said. What is that brightly lit building? We do not know. Oh, it's really interesting to go all into this. Well, that's also happening in the Zapruder movie. I came across with Jörg and Stephanie 2 days ago in German to make that session, and I wanted to have something neat at the end of the session where we are now. Yeah, look at that frame from the Zapruder movie. I hope that I can show that to you. Yeah, so then is the official first shot at the president when he's raising his arms. Now he's raising his arms to the throat. You see that here? But now you see something very strange, which is not happening usually, or has been talked about usually. Of course, everybody talks about the Umbrella Man here. We will talk about him later in that program, but not in the next sessions. You see here the car. Yeah, and now please look what is becoming of the car when it is about the time of the final impact. Yeah, so I will show you. Look at the car and look at the wheels. Look at the wheels. So bam, 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 bam. And now what do you see, Brett?
Wheels are gone.
The wheels are gone.
You don't see the wheels.
Yeah. And now look what became of the president. Dun, 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 dun. You see the president?
Hardly.
Hardly. Yeah.
You see, the total focus of that movie is on the grass. So that is kind of a movie that a gardener would take and say, oh, look at that fresh green grass over there. Yeah. So something's terrible wrong with that movie, because if you want to shoot the American president, you would focus on the president at the center of your interest, wouldn't you?
Mm-hmm.
Look at the picture of Altgens 6. Altgens 6, the famous picture. It's a very good picture to start your investigation also. Yeah, so now you look at Altgens 6. Okay, so this is Altgens 6. So this is a photographer from AP, from Associated Press, seconds before the fatal shot arrived, and of course then when Kennedy was holding his throat or what else. You see, there are only two guys, two bodyguards on the right side of the follow-up car, who are looking behind to the Texas Schoolbook Depository, where alleged Lee Harvey Oswald or Mr. Lovelady or who else is standing in the entrance. Not all the other. Officially, a shot had been occurred, therefore Mr. Kennedy was holding his throat. That is the first problem that we got. So if there would be a shot, Brett, then there are only a few people reacting to that shot, which are the two guys and the one in the limousine behind Lyndon B. Johnson. Meaning, what did all the other people hear? They were only focusing on the president. And also, if they are trained people, the Secret Service agents, at least these guys had to look back when a shot occurred from the back, wouldn't they?
Mm-hmm.
And I got another problem with that. Oh, many, many problems with that, apart from open windows and all this strange stuff happening here. Look at that motorcop pilot here. It looks like, Brett, as he's in line with the president. Yeah, that he's looking to the president. Is that big enough that you see that is this JFK here? And this is the motorbike rider, Brett. Can you see that on your screen?
Yeah.
So he's facing Kennedy at the moment.
It appears
at the time,
to be so.
Yeah. Now you look at that frame. It's about frame 225 at least, starting when they were coming, when he raised his arms. Yeah, so there. And now I will face forward. Okay. Tell me, Brett, where is the motorbike policeman?
Just to the left.
Yeah, where?
Over to the side there.
You mean here?
Well, no, that's the car.
Look at the picture again. Yeah, it's a picture of the president here.
Yeah.
Holding his throat. And this is the policeman on the bike. So it must be somewhere between frame 225 and
that policeman. I thought you meant the other one. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Yeah, that's gone.
Yeah, you see that
I didn't even see that. Okay, all right.
Okay, no problem. I can enhance it a bit.
I was looking to the right, not the left.
No, I don't think that I can enhance it, or can I?
Oh, and that's fine. That's good. That's good.
Yeah, you see, that's
now
the best that I can. Yeah, he's facing direct Kennedy. He's facing Kennedy. Yeah. As if he's riding by the limousine here, more or less. He's facing Kennedy. I said, oh, what's going on here? Yeah. And then you compare that, please, to the Zapruder movie in that particular frame.
Well, the sign, the sign reveals there's no police cycle there.
Yeah.
Unless it's, yeah, no, it was right up against the, that's really weird.
It must be here, but it can't be here.
Yes.
Because everything here, you see that under that line has been blacked out. And it gets worse and worse and worse and worse by each shot. Yeah. So the cameraman is not focusing on the president. You see? Up and up and up and up and up and up and up the image goes. Until, yeah, you see, you can hardly see the president here. That's frame 291. And the fatal shot comes at 313. 313, yeah? Now now you see that you can hardly see the president. Now it's get a bit better, but you can't see everything here. So, yeah, you see, you can see something here, but not here. And you see that green thing here does not make any sense, because where is the street? Where is the street here? The street is not green. Yeah. So, and now you see, now you got the fatal shot.
There's the motorcycle.
There is the motorcycle.
Finally.
Yeah. Yeah, but you see that it seems that it has been blacked out here, so that this that is a frame here. But I highly doubt that is the official frame. I got another explanation for that, which I will present in the next session. Yeah. Yeah. And now you see
the motorcycle's still on the other side of the vehicle. Yeah, really strange. Yeah,
on both sides of the vehicle. But you can agree on the fact that there are so many artifacts in that movie here. This is not the original cut. Yeah, this has been fabricated here, and we will come to that quite later, because I also found footage. Now, you see. There you see everything. That is in the center of the film, of the movie. Did you see that? No. Or didn't you see that?
Yeah, I see it. I see it. But what do you mean by the center?
Yeah, you can see, you could see the wheels every time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but in the Zapruder movie, you can't.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
right.
So they are blocking out information. What is happening at the side of the car, for example,
mm-hmm.
at the time of the impact.
Right.
And he was standing on a pedestal, so he's standing high above. Yeah, you see that here is the street. Here is the street. Here looks something like the street. Yeah, could be the street here, and that changed also now into green. So there are reflections, and there is something happening here and happening there. This is not a regular movie. Yeah, this is reflection and something else. Yeah, you see? There's also speed is not correct. And many more things coming up in the next session, I hope. But for today, I'm really exhausted because it's a bunch of lies everywhere. Yeah, so please pardon me, but I really have to have a break after 2 hours in a foreign language and going into all this mess of Kennedy. Sometimes I'm a little bit sorry to start at that matter here, because it seems to be endless.
Yeah, it really does, doesn't it?
Yeah. But you see that all the fake and forgery now, next time we were going into the Zapruder movie. Really, that will be everything. Then really the mess and with the evaluation of Kennedy really will start. It really will start, because we will see that everything has been faked. Yeah, so it's everything faked, and we will see that in the next time when we will discover what about that so-called wrist damage of Connolly, yeah, which he was not aware of. Yeah, you got a wrist injury, but you are not aware of that injury because he's continuing to keep his head in his hand. Yeah, although he has a wrist injury. Oh, there's so much to it. Yeah, can't believe your own eyes. Yeah, sometimes people do not believe the things that they're really seeing. They believe the things of the narrator. Yeah, that she was actually looking out for pieces of his brain. Yeah, sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's what the people actually tell him. Yeah, she told me that she's got part of his brain. The problem is that the X-rays are not the things that they have seen, and everything has been faked, yeah, including witnesses. You will have a hard time going to that. Yeah, the government shows proof that the bullet goes through 2 bodies and bones, sure, without noticing that the people have been hit. Oh, yeah, of course, because there were no magic bullet. Oh, I don't know where to start. Really, I just collected so many things.
Mm-hmm.
Can you imagine how many hours I'm doing with all the sessions here?
Yeah.
Or months.
Yep.
Yeah. But in the end, you will see. Oh yeah, you will see that. Oh, Michael, that's so great that you did that. You will see that.
Mm-hmm.
I promise you that you will be really astonished.
Mm-hmm.
When it really comes to the conclusion of it all. So that was the movie of Robert Groden, who said that the arrogance of those in power to cover up may the truth be known. Yeah, but this is working for the Jesuits as well, because he's not taking into consideration that it happened in a Freemason plaza, and that's all that the church is behind that. Yeah, so that Mr. Groden was the one who was officially the man who supplied us with the Zapruder home movie of JFK assassination. The problem is that Mr. Zapruder, is also high-ranking Freemason, so nothing happened by random. Everything was staged before. Yeah, and it was fake, and Groden denies that it's fake, so Groden is a disinformation agent as well. Yeah, as well as all the guys about the counterintelligence, Angleton, and all the things. It's never ending, because it's just there are. I presume there is an agency behind who's putting out all the disinformation information. Yeah. So let's stop here actually, and let's make room for Brett's final closing comments.
Yeah, thanks, Michael. I never ever would have thought about looking at those photographs, and that, yeah, it's so strange the way that this is, coming together, because yeah, they just want to form a public opinion about things, and then that opinion somehow becomes the facts, and that seems to be the case in a lot of instances with the media. They just want some type of control over the information, obviously. And it's like when you started the session, Michael, and you were referring to the Miranda Procels document there from the Vatican, these papal encyclicals, they don't make things simple now, do they? They mix it all up, and the problem is everyone wants to have fun, but how can you have fun when your so-called entertainment is all being created to fabricate the wrong information? So, yeah, there's something on the screen, Michael. I don't know what that is, but anyway, the whole idea that they're putting into our minds is to make us confused and to get us all mixed up, and so that we're looking in the wrong places and at the wrong suspects for the crime that was committed. That seems to be the case here, Michael. But yeah, I really, it's a lot to take in, because we weren't alive during this whole scenario, but certainly we've heard much about it throughout our lives. Those of us that are younger, of course, the older folks have been listening to this for many, many, many years, and I would imagine they'd be really tired of it. But wow. I hope that my computer can handle this. It's really bogging down because of the recording I'm doing, capturing the screen here, but hopefully we'll be okay. But yeah, Michael, I'm just really kind of overwhelmed with all of the information, being as old as it is, and not being, you know, what can we say, released to the public. The Zapruder film just seems to be definitely something to scrutinize over. It's just things do not add up at all. But yeah, Michael, that's my comments. I'm just kind of empty.
Yeah, thank you very much, Brett. I just wanted to make that session not of pure enjoyment, but just for the fact that we need to know that these are the SMOM behind that scheme.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, so that we know that it's the military behind it. It's a military organization located in the Vatican. And so you see that all the 8 things about the ritual of the Freemasons, they are being overseen by the hierarchy of the SMOM. And then you have the Vatican into the play, and you see that all these people are connected, interconnected, interwoven with the Syrian military Knights of Malta. Yeah, that's the king. And Kennedy being one of them, actually. Father and son.
That's true.
Being one of them. So you cannot exclude the SMOM of the operation or of the assassination. Does not work. And if you think that, oh yeah, I know everything about that, it's just a Freemason ritual, you don't know anything, because you have to see it from the bird's eye perspective. And the bird's eye perspective is that the SMOM is way on top of the Freemasonry. And that's not the end of the line as well. So we are building our step and step and step and step, and you can really see my conclusion of it all. And then you can see for yourself and consider for yourself if that seems logic to you. Yeah, so that we are really going into the Zapruder film, and after the Zapruder movie, there is only one key issue before we are coming to the final rally of the big file, when it comes down to the so-called magic bullet and or the so-called single bullet and all the things around that. And I don't think that ever anybody has been seen that from my perspective, because I'm such a strange guy from Germany, it seems, that I see things from a different perspective. And then you will see that my logical conclusion is really logic. And then you will see the things how with their real intention, with their real meaning. And I know that is a very tough thing to do, but I don't want to have 80 sessions on Kennedy. Yeah? I don't want to have any sessions about Oswald, Marina Oswald, and all the FBI, CIA stuff, because you see there are many people writing books. I just want to present things that are not being generally being discussed, because they just leave out the religious issue. Therefore, we have only the Zapruder episodes, I don't know, 1 or 2, and then we will really come to the nitty-gritty of it all. We will really come to the nitty-gritty of it all. We will come to the key suspects, and then we will come to the conclusion about the bullets. And then you will see, oh my, oh my, oh my, oh my, oh my, oh my. Yeah? There are so many things, and then it will really pay off that we have talked so extensively before. I was also accused in German of being too detailed and that it is boring to listen, but I'm sorry that it's not just for everybody's taste. I'm not. It's not my cup of tea to look at things superficially, but it's my cup of tea to really want to know the truth. And Jesus Christ said, "I'm the truth, the way, of the life. Nobody gets to the Father but by me," in John 14:6. So it's about the truth. And therefore, I will present you the things, the key things to know, the symbolism and the key things to know about the assassination of JFK. And then you have a prime example of the things that you ought to know, and what is, according to me, the absolute truth, because there is no other way around, because everything else would be pure contradiction, because it would contradict all the things that we have found out sessions before. And so you see that who's behind it, why it had to start it that way, what is the symbolism behind, and what is the real cause, what is the real origin, and what kind of hints have been played out which are not been seen by the general public. And there will be a lot Okay, so much so, and thank you very much for Brett, who's bearing with me for different 2 hours every time. And I'm sorry for my maybe for my decent form today, I don't know, but it's really a tough subject. I don't know if I would have started the Kennedy research if I would have known that it would take so much time. I really don't know. I'm really not sure. I don't think I would started it. But now that I have done, I think about 70% of the things, I want to see the finish line, and I promise you that I keep the pace. And so thank you very much. Hand it over to my beloved brother, Brett.
Thanks, Michael. Yes, some really good pointers you're pointing out in this series, and you know, this is in fact one of them. Even though, yeah, it's long and very obscure information and really not all that interesting in some points, but we're dealing with the assassination of a president that was done in broad daylight, of course, as the Zapruder film here is supposed to show us. But yeah, obviously something's very fishy here, Michael. So it'll be really interesting to see the next steps that are coming in the series. And I think all of us are waiting for that. And hang in there with us. We're getting there, and we're going to be there soon. So we'll catch you next time. And Michael, that's my end comments.
No, it can't be your end comments. You're missing something.
I am.
Starts with M.
Oh, yes, Maranatha.